Hey Reddit, throwaway account here because this mess is too personal to link to my main. But I need to get this out somewhere or I'll explode, so buckle up for a long one. Our story isn't some quick rom-com gone wrong. It's more like one of those slow burn true crime podcasts where you think you know the plot, but then it flips on you twice. Anyway, we met back when I was fresh out of college. I was scraping by in an entry-level job at this mid-sized tech firm in the Midwest. You know, the kind where everyone pretends to be innovative, but really it's just endless meetings about optimizing spreadsheets. He was the guy 2 cubicles over. He was always wearing those slightly wrinkled button-ups like he rolled out of bed 5 minutes before clocking in. But he had this quiet confidence that drew me in. Not the loud bro type, but the one who actually listened when you talked about your weekend hikes or that obscure band you loved. We'd chat during lunch breaks about nothing and everything, from debating the best local craft beers to complaining about our micromanaging boss. One day after a team happy hour where we both had one too many IPAs, he walked me to my car. He just straight up asked if I wanted to grab dinner sometime. No games, no swiping on apps, just real human connection in a world that's all digital now. I said yes because why not? He seemed genuine. Our first date was at this hole, in the wall Thai place where we shared pad CU. We laughed about our awkward high school phases. Me with my goth makeup experiments and him with his failed attempt at being a skateboarder that ended in a broken wrist. From there it snowballed. Weekends turned into sleepovers. Sleepovers into moving in together after a year. We rented this tiny apartment above a coffee shop that always smelled like fresh grounds in the morning. We'd wake up to the hum of the city starting its day. We'd make breakfast burritos together. We'd argue playfully about whose turn it was to do the dishes. It felt easy. Like we'd skipped the honeymoon phase and jumped straight to comfortable companionship. He proposed 2 years later during a road trip out west. We were hiking in some national park with red rocks towering around us. He got down on one knee at this overlook with the sun setting. No fancy ring box, just pulling it out of his backpack like it was a granola bar. He said he couldn't imagine exploring the world without me as his partner in crime. I cried. I said yes. We got married in a simple courthouse ceremony because neither of us wanted the big wedding debt. Just close family and a backyard barbecue after. We moved to a suburb with better schools in mind, even though we weren't sure about kids yet. We bought a fixer-upper house with creaky floors and a backyard big enough for a garden. I swore I'd maintain it, but mostly grew weeds. He worked his way up to project manager at the firm. I switched to freelance graphic design so I could work from home. Life settled into this rhythm of grocery runs on Saturdays, Netflix binges on weeknights, occasional date nights where we'd try new recipes or hit up a comedy show. But looking back, there were these tiny cracks I ignored. Like how he'd zone out during conversations sometimes, staring at his phone with this distant look, or how our sex life went from passionate to perfunctory, like checking a box. I'd chalk it up to stress from work, the economy sucking. It's both hitting our mid-30s and feeling the weight of adulting, but deep down I knew something was shifting. Not dramatically, but like sand eroding under your feet at the beach. You don't notice until you're ankle-deep in water. One night after he'd fallen asleep early again, I picked up his phone just to check the time. I saw a notification from some messaging app I didn't recognize. Heart pounding, I swiped it open because the passcode was our anniversary date, easy to guess. There were messages from someone with a generic profile pic. Nothing explicit but flirty emojis and can't wait to see you again type stuff. I felt my stomach drop. I put the phone down. I pretended to sleep. But my mind raced all night. Was this it? The beginning of the end? Or just paranoia from reading too many relationship horror stories online? The next day, I acted normal. Made coffee. Kissed him goodbye as he headed to the office. But inside, I was unraveling. I started paying more attention. Noticed he was showering more often, buying new cologne, working late with vague explanations about deadlines. I didn't confront him right away because I wanted proof. Didn't want to be that crazy spouse jumping to conclusions. So I started small, checking his browser history, which was suspiciously cleared. Then his email trash, where I found receipts for lunches at places we never went together. Always for two. My freelance work suffered. I'd stare at my screen designing logos, but really just spiraling into what ifs. Was she younger, prettier, more exciting than our routine life? Or maybe it was a he, though that seemed unlikely given how straight-laced he was. But you never know. I even drove by his office one evening when he said he was staying late. Saw his car still there but no lights on in his section. Heart racing. I parked across the street like some amateur detective. Waited an hour until he emerged with a woman, tall with dark hair in a ponytail. They hugged goodbye. Not a kiss, but intimate enough to sting. She got in her car, he in his. I followed him home, tears blurring my vision the whole way. That night, I confronted him over dinner. Pasta growing cold as I laid out what I'd seen. He denied at first, said she was a colleague on a project, but his eyes darted away. When I mentioned the messages, he deflated. Admitted they'd been flirting. Nothing physical yet, but emotional. Said he felt trapped in our marriage, like we'd become roommates instead of lovers. Blamed me for not initiating more, for letting things get stale. I was furious, hurt. We yelled until the neighbors probably heard. He swore it was a mistake, promised to cut her off, go to counseling. For a while it seemed like we were rebuilding. Therapy sessions where we'd unpack our communication issues. Date nights that felt forced at first but then genuine. Sex that was tentative but rebuilding trust. I thought we'd dodged the bullet, but then came the first twist. About 6 months later, I was cleaning out the garage. Found a hidden box under some old tools. Inside were letters, old school handwritten ones, from someone else. Not the colleague, dated back years, before we even met. Affectionate. Talking about secret meetings. My world tilted again. Who was this person? Why hide it? I confronted him again, this time calmer. He broke down, said it was from a high school sweetheart he'd reconnected with online a few years into our marriage. Purely platonic now, but started as an emotional affair. Swore it ended when I found out about the colleague. But the letters were keepsakes he couldn't part with. I felt betrayed all over again. Like our foundation was built on lies. We separated for a bit. Me staying with family while he reflected. Therapy intensified. He begged for another chance, said he was addicted to the thrill of secrecy from a rough childhood where emotions were suppressed. I took him back because love isn't logical. We worked harder, traveled more, tried new hobbies like rock climbing classes to inject adventure. It seemed to help. Our bond deepened in ways I didn't expect. Sharing vulnerabilities we'd buried, but then the real gut punch came last year. I was at a work conference out of state, networking with other designers. Met this guy at a panel discussion, charming with a dry wit that reminded me of my husband in the early days. We grabbed drinks after, talked shop. But the conversation veered personal. He was divorced, shared his story of infidelity on his ex's part. I opened up about our struggles without details. Felt seen in a way I hadn't in ages. One thing led to another. We ended up in his hotel room. It was impulsive, passionate. Nothing like the careful reconstruction at home. Guilt hit me like a truck the next morning. I flew home early, confessed everything to my husband that night, expecting explosion, divorce papers. But here's the twist. He listened quietly, then admitted he'd been seeing the colleague again, sporadically. Said my confession made him realize we were both broken in similar ways. Chasing validation outside because inside felt hollow. We didn't yell this time, just talked for hours. Decided to open the marriage experimentally. Set ground rules like honesty and protection. No overnights. It was weird at first. Jealousy flares. But also liberating. I dated the conference guy a few times virtually. My husband saw others. We checked in constantly. Strangely, it brought us closer, like removing the pressure valve on our monogamy expectations. But wait, the final twist hit a month ago. During a routine checkup, I found out I was pregnant, something we hadn't planned since we'd decided against kids years ago. Paternity test pending, but timing points to my husband. The conference guy used protection. Now we're navigating this curveball, therapy on steroids. Debating if open marriage works with the baby. He's excited, scared. I'm a mix of thrilled and terrified. Wondering if this is the universe's way of forcing us to close ranks or if it'll tear us apart. Reddit, what do you think? Are we doomed or is this just life's messy way of evolving? Anyway, that's our saga. Thanks for reading if you made it this far.